Salutations, meatbags. I'm your non-binary host with the most, Mr. Bones. And today, we are celebrating the first two Tim Burton Batman movies. As I am late to both of their respective anniversaries, that's on me. I forgot the dates. So, we're going to cover them both in one big video, talking about some of their flaws, talking about some of the reasons I love them, and the things that Batman fans owe to these movies. We'll start off with the flaws, since I have not too many. I mostly have positive things to say about these movies. The biggest complaint is that these two movies, I almost said this series, but it's not a whole series unless it's, Batman to Batman and Robin, but we're excluding the two Schumacher films and just talking about the Burton movies. So these two movies are much more focused on the Dark Knight, Dark Protector of Gotham than World's Greatest Detective. Which is fine. That's totally fine. It's just, when I watch something Batman, my biggest complaint with some of the Batman movies, from the Nolan trilogy to this, to Snyder, is that we don't see Batman doing a lot of detective work. We don't really get that in these two movies. We don't get it too much in the Dark Knight trilogy. And that bothers me just a little bit. I'm fine if you have a heavier focus on the Dark Knight aspect of everything, but I still want to see the world's greatest detective. So that rubs me the wrong way a little bit. And that's kind of the biggest complaint. The other complaint comes right now when we start talking about the characters, and because I would hate to keep her waiting, we're going to talk about Vicky Vale first. Vicky Vale is my other big issue with this first movie. She is kind of a character. She has enough autonomy as a character to where she feels important, helps progress the plot, has a personality, but at the same time, she is definitely used as the damsel in distress, as both a love interest for Batman and Joker, weirdly enough. And she doesn't do too much besides be that, make a sarcastic comment here and there, and, be an outsider's perspective onto Batman. What's it like meeting Batman and learning who he is and what he's actually like. So, there's that. That's truly the biggest issue I have with that first movie. I don't have a whole lot of issues with Batman Returns. I have one. We'll get to that. But I don't have a whole lot. And I know that a lot of people are going to be like, well, Batman kills in these movies. Yeah, he does. And that's it. I take issue with that. But not as much as I take issue with it in the Snyder movies. I hate the Snyder movies, and I hate Batman in the Snyder movies. I don't like that he kills in those movies at all. I don't like his reasoning for killing in those movies at all. Here's the thing. It bothers me less in the Burton movies than it does in the Snyder movies. Because Burton never said, this is the definitive version of Batman. No. Burton just made a Batman movie and a sequel to his Batman movie. He never said, this is the definitive version of Batman. Snyder said, this is the definitive version of the characters. Everything I'm doing here is 100% what the characters are like. I read the comics. This is what they're like. Which is bullshit. You don't get to make that claim and say, this is the definitive version of those characters. I read the comics, I know what I'm talking about, and then do that. Burton never claimed to be making the definitive Batman movie. Burton honestly even said, I've never read a Batman comic in my life during the making of his Batman movie. There were people on set and stuff that were Batman fans and, read the comics and were helping nudge him in certain directions, but he never tried to, put on the falsity of, yeah, this is the definitive Batman and I've read the comics. Snyder did, and that's bullshit, and that's why I take more issue with Batman killing in those movies than in the Burton movies. Because this is just a Batman movie. And honestly, it's taking more influence from the first few Batman comics when he was using a gun and was very much more just the Shadow, but dressed like a bat. And I'm fine with that. That's different than saying this is the definitive version. Sorry about that. This is the definitive version of these characters. I've read the comics. I know 100% what I'm talking about. Don't look into that, I swear. That's bullshit. Also, another thing that I like more about the Burton movies than in the Snyder movies that makes the killing not as bad in my opinion is that it feels more like Batman. I don't watch Batman v Superman or Justice League and look at Batman and go, no, he got Batman tonally right. No, he didn't. Tim Burton did. Tim Burton got the gothic nature of Batman perfect to the point where it inspired the animated series. We don't get the animated series without the two Batman movies from Burton, which means we don't get the Arkham franchise without the two Batman movies from Burton. That's it. It's fantastic that I'm able to recognize the flaws with these movies, but still praise them because without them we don't get some of the best versions of Batman. So before you go and my comments are like, well, why are you praising Burton but hating on Snyder? That's why Snyder didn't revolutionize shit. Burton did. Moving on from that, talking about the next character, Alfred. There is not a bad version of Alfred in the movies. I will 100% stand by this forever. It's very hard to get Alfred wrong. Even Snyder didn't mess Alfred up. Jeremy Irons did fantastic, but there's not much I can say. Alfred is Alfred. He serves the purpose of Alfred. He's wonderful. I love it every time he's on screen. Now, we come face to face with Catwoman in Batman Returns. We're going to transition into Batman Returns for a little bit because I want to talk about that movie, and then we'll come back to the first one to close things out. Face to face with Catwoman. Played and portrayed by Michelle Pfeiffer beautifully. Love the costume, attitude. She is an actual character. She has her own goals, has her own story arc that we see progress alongside Batman, Penguin, Max Shreck throughout the movie. And it's wonderful. She's far more important to the plot than Vicky was. She's a much more interesting love interest. She has her own theme song, performed beautifully by Susie and the Banshees, which is a wonderful goth band that just fits right in with the Burton style of everything. I love it so much. She's very important. She is kind of the catalyst for part of the ending. If she doesn't show up to that gala with Bruce, and things don't go the way they do, Max Shreck doesn't die in the end, and then gets to go on and presumably reveal that Bruce Wayne is Batman to the general public. But because she's there, he dies, and that's very important. You also see Batman kind of grow by the end of this movie. He's rethinking the killing thing, is even talking Selina back from that edge of killing Max Schreck. That's important. Without her, we don't get that character arc for Batman. They're very important to get there. That's important. And then, of course, we have, Mr. Mayor. I look into Gotham's future, and I see it cloaked in lights, flickering on and off, and frankly, I cringe. Max Schreck performed. I'm going to be talking in the Christopher Walken voice, because now I can't turn it off. Performed by Christopher Walken. Throughout the movie, meatbags. Turned it off. And he is the worst part of this movie. I love Christopher Walken, but Max Schreck is the worst part of this movie. He is the most incompetent villain I have ever seen in a Batman movie, I think. He pushes Selina out the window. Doesn't have anyone cover up the evidence of the broken window, just presuming he'll get away with it. And then just walks away. It's a little weird. Just, why did he think he could get away with it? He doesn't explain why he thought he could get away with it. He just thinks he can get away with it. And then Penguin shows up. We'll talk about Penguin now, too. Kind of cross them, because their stories intertwine. Shows up, and Maxwell thinks that he can just manipulate and use Penguin without any real merit to show that he can. The mayor doesn't like him already, and so he's going to use Penguin as a figurehead mayor to get what he wants. But there's no evidence to show that, one, he knows how to do that, or two, he knows how politics works. This whole movie, Max Schreck is kind of just going through things, thinking it'll turn out alright in the end. And that just seems foolish. And it really makes him less intimidating, because the whole time he's operating off of no merit whatsoever. So you have no reason to believe that he's an actual valid threat. And it's just very, very hard to take him seriously. Which hurts, because Christopher Walken can be terrifying. But he's just kind of stupid here. And then Penguin, who is actually the scariest villain in the movie, is kind of also not that big of a threat up until the end, when you realize he can just blow shit up. He's more unsettling and pervy throughout the movie, which is fine for this take on Penguin, but he just doesn't feel threatening. Catwoman is the only person that actually feels threatening, because we see her go toe-to-toe with Batman and knock him on his ass. Which is fine. I think that's very nice that we have one villain that's actually a threat. Just kind of wish the other two were more of a threat. Circle back around to the first movie. It's time to talk about the party man himself, the Joker, performed by Jack Nicholson. Is Jack Nicholson my favorite live-action portrayal of the Joker? Maybe. Him and Heath Ledger go back and forth, and I can't tell you which I prefer, because I love them both for different reasons. I do think that Jack Nicholson is the best version of the Clown Prince of Crime. That version of the Joker, who's more focused on being a psychotic gang leader than, an ancient agent of chaos. I think Jack Nicholson is the best version of that. And I think that is the most fitting portrayal for this version of the universe that definitely at least in the first movie, is more focused on how the gangs in this version of Gotham operate. I think this version of Joker works out perfectly. I think Jack has the perfect level of charisma, the perfect level of insanity behind him. Just everything about it works. And of course, we can't talk about Joker without talking about the man in the bat cowl himself. Kind of like something you see at a secondhand store. Batman. Again, this is the Dark Knight of Gotham, not the world's greatest detective. This version of Batman is more interesting in hunting down and beating the shit out of the bad guys, which is fine. And Michael Keaton does that brooding, gothic Batman perfectly. I love it so much. But you don't really get to know Bruce Wayne. That's my biggest critique of this version of Batman is we know Batman very well. We don't know Bruce Wayne. And I think that is kind of damaging to the movie. Because we get to know Alfred and we get to hear Alfred talk about Bruce Wayne, but we don't get to see Bruce Wayne being Bruce Wayne. And I would kind of want to see that more if I'm watching a Batman movie. So, both these movies have their flaws and their bonuses. And I love them. They're very near and dear to my heart. I grew up watching the first one a lot when I was alive. And I'll always love it. But it's a mixed bag. You gotta take the bad with the good and kind of look at it and go, yeah, it's flawed, but it's still pretty damn good, and I really like them. They're good movies at their core. But the one thing that's not flawed with these movies, and you heard me talk about and mention Susie and the Banshee earlier, and that was in Batman Returns. But in Batman, we get a soundtrack and album that I don't give a shit what anyone says. Fits the movie perfectly. Performed, written, and recorded by the King of Pop, the real King of Pop, Prince. Oh, such a fucking good album. He gives the flashiness and the stylization of the movie just the perfect edge with this album, and having it play throughout the movie at different bits. It's perfect. Party Man is the perfect theme for Joker. I love Electric Chair, Lemon Crush, Vicky Waiting, Future opening the movie. Subtly, it's in the background if you're listening, is so wonderful. Bat Dance is just an experience. I love the use of audio clips throughout the album that correlate to scenes in the movie. Just everything about the album is perfect. It fits the stylization and practice exercise in aesthetic that the first movie is going for perfectly. I know he wasn't necessarily what Tim was looking for while making the movie, but I love him anyway. Prince is one of my favorite artists, my favorite pop artist, the King of Pop, and Batman the album works so well with Batman the movie. So yeah, this has been my thoughts on Batman and Batman Returns, celebrating their anniversaries. And let me know your thoughts on any aspect of the movies in the comments, which one you prefer, if you like them both, if you don't like either of them, why, if you like the music, if you don't like the music. Just let me know your thoughts in the comments, please. Until next time, meatbags, I'm a non-binary host with the most, Mr. Bones.